These are 5 true horror stories, and every single one ends in darkness. Story 1. The Friendly Neighbor. When the police finally arrested him, I stood at my window, frozen. Flashing red and blue lights poured across the street. And there he was, my neighbor, the man who waved at me every morning, being dragged out of his house in handcuffs. That night, the truth hit me. My friendly neighbor had been killing women. For years, he was part of my routine. I'd leave for work and there he'd be, watering his lawn or pretending to check his mail. Always smiling, always waving. Sometimes we'd even exchange small talk. He asked me once if I ever felt unsafe living alone. I laughed it off back then. Now, remembering it makes my stomach twist. It wasn't until later that I realized the little red flags had been there the whole time. I used to hear footsteps outside my window at night. Slow, deliberate. I'd peek through the blinds and sometimes catch a glimpse of his shadow moving along the fence. I told myself it was him walking his dog, even though I never actually saw the dog. Then came the flyers. Missing women. Girls from nearby towns, their faces printed on cheap paper stapled to telephone poles. I remember walking past them, uneasy, but convincing myself it had nothing to do with me. One evening, I took out the trash and caught him staring. Not a neighborly glance, not even curiosity, just a cold, heavy stare that pinned me in place. His expression didn't change when I waved. I forced a smile and rushed back inside, telling myself I was imagining things. The scariest moment before everything unraveled happened in the middle of summer. It was around 3 in the morning when I woke to a noise of something dragging across the pavement. I peeked through the blinds and saw him struggling with a black garbage bag. It was heavy, bulky. He wrestled it into the trunk of his car, glanced around, and then drove away. I stood there, heart hammering, palms sweating, whispering to myself, "It's just trash. It's just trash." I wanted to call the cops, but what would I say? My neighbor took out his garbage weirdly. I let it go. That decision still haunts me. A week later, something even worse happened. I woke up to find my back door wide open. I know I locked it. I always lock it. My chest tightened as I grabbed a kitchen knife and crept from room to room. The house felt different, heavier. Every creak in the floorboards made me want to run. But I found nothing. No one hiding in closets. No signs of forced entry. The next morning, though, I noticed muddy footprints smeared across the tile. They were too big to be mine. I told myself it could have been anything. Maybe I forgot to close the door. Maybe the footprints were old. I buried the thought deep down, because the alternative, that he had been inside my home while I slept, was too horrifying to accept. Then came the night it all exploded. Sirens shattered the silence, growing louder until they filled the whole street. I stepped outside and saw police cars lining the block, officers rushing into his house. They came out minutes later, pushing him in front of them. His face, it was blank. No fear, no anger, no surprise, just empty. The news spread fast. They found evidence in his basement. Clothing, jewelry, even bones. He had been hunting women for years. That night I saw him with the garbage bag. It hadn't been trash. Neighbors whispered about how he fooled us all. He was so helpful, some said. Always polite. But I couldn't stop thinking about the footprints. The open door, the way he stared at me like he already knew me, inside and out. Later, one of the detectives told me something that still keeps me awake. In his basement, they found notebooks, detailed accounts of his victims, names, dates, times, and in the back of one of those notebooks was my name, my schedule, my habits, even the brand of coffee I bought. I don't know why he never made me part of his collection. Maybe he was waiting. Maybe he liked knowing he could. Now, when I wave at strangers, I do it differently. Less trust, more distance. Because once my neighbor waved at me every single day, and he was a killer. Story 2. The hitchhiker who let me live. They never caught him, and I still don't know why he let me live. That thought comes back every time I close my eyes. I was 19, stranded on the side of a back road in the middle of nowhere. My old car had broken down, and my phone showed nothing but no service. The night air was sticky, heavy with crickets, and the dark pressed in on all sides. Then headlights appeared. An old pickup truck slowed down, tires crunching gravel. The driver leaned across the seat and rolled down the window. He wore a greasy baseball cap, his face lined and weathered, his grin too wide. "You stuck?" he asked. His voice was low, like it carried something unspoken. I hesitated, every instinct screaming no. But the night was swallowing me whole, and the thought of waiting hours alone terrified me even more. I nodded. He unlocked the door. The truck smelled like gasoline and rust. The seat springs poked through the cracked vinyl. My knees brushed against a neatly coiled rope and a roll of duct tape on the floorboard. My stomach tightened, but I forced myself not to react. At first, he was quiet. Just the hum of the engine and the sound of tires on asphalt. Then the questions started. "Where are you headed? Got family waiting on you? Live alone?" I lied. I said my dad was expecting me, that I had a boyfriend, that people knew exactly where I was. He didn't respond. He just kept glancing at me with that grin, like he knew I was lying, but enjoyed it. That's when I noticed the scratches on the inside of the passenger door, just above the handle. Long grooves, uneven, like someone had clawed at it in desperation. My chest tightened. My hand hovered near the handle, but I forced it back to my lap. He asked me to open the glove box, said there was a flashlight inside. My fingers shook as I pulled it open. There was a flashlight, yes, but beside it a large hunting knife. The blade was dulled but stained, dark spots crusted along the edge. He watched me, his grin spreading. "Go on," he said. "Pick it up." I shut the compartment with a slam and muttered that I didn't need it. His laugh was soft, but it carried weight. Not the laugh of someone amused, more like the laugh of someone savoring control. We drove past miles of empty road. No lights, no houses, just endless darkness. Then he slowed and pulled onto the shoulder. The truck idled, the headlights cutting into the trees. He turned to me, eyes glinting in the glow of the dash. "You remind me of someone," he whispered. My throat went dry. "Oh." His smile widened. "My first." I thought I was dead. My hand brushed the door handle, heart racing, but I was terrified it would be locked from his side. He didn't move. He just stared, breathing slow and heavy, like he was deciding something. Minutes passed in silence. Finally, he shifted back, turned the wheel, and eased onto the road again. My body stayed frozen until the lights of town came into view. When he stopped near a gas station, I pushed the door open before the truck fully stopped. I stumbled out, muttered a thank you I didn't mean, and bolted inside. I waited behind the glass until his taillights disappeared. I thought I'd never see him again, but 2 weeks later, I saw her face. Another missing girl. Same road, same night. She was never found. I called the police, gave them everything, the scratches, the rope, the knife, even his words. They listened, nodded, and took notes, but nothing came of it. No arrest, no name, no closure. Years later, I still wonder, Did he let me go because I reminded him of someone he couldn't hurt? Did he enjoy dragging out my fear? Or was he saving me for later? Sometimes, when I drive at night, headlights appear behind me. Too close, too long. My chest seizes until they pass, and I swear I still smell gasoline and rust. I repeat the same words to calm myself, though they never help. They never caught him, and I still don't know why he let me live. Story 3. The Lost Phone. When I handed the phone to the police, they told me it belonged to a girl who had gone missing 2 weeks earlier. That's when everything in my life started to unravel. It began on the bus ride home. I was exhausted from work, head leaning against the window, when I noticed a phone jammed between the seat and the glass. No case, cracked screen. The battery was almost dead, but still on. The wallpaper wasn't a picture of someone smiling or a pet. It was blurry, like someone reaching toward the camera. A hand, stretched out, frozen mid-motion. I slipped it into my bag, thinking I'd turn it in later. But once I got home, curiosity pushed harder than common sense. I tapped the screen awake. The lock screen was flooded with notifications. Dozens of missed calls, all from unknown. Text messages that made my chest tighten. Stop moving. I told you not to scream. You can't hide forever. My hands trembled as I unlocked the gallery. The most recent photos weren't of friends or pets. They were of a girl. Grainy shots of her face, eyes wide and wet, mouth open in a silent scream. She was in a basement, bare concrete walls, a dangling bulb, shadows swallowing her corners. The last photo didn't show her at all, just the wall, as if the camera had been dropped mid-struggle. I should have stopped, should have turned it off, called the cops immediately. But I kept scrolling. Older pictures showed her at school, laughing with friends, hugging her mom, posing in a bedroom full of stuffed animals. She looked so young, 16, maybe 17. Then the videos. The first was only 3 seconds long. The camera jolted, a muffled sob, then a man's voice. Don't make this harder. The next video was longer. The girl tied to a chair, shaking her head, whispering something I couldn't make out. Behind the camera, slow breathing. I dropped the phone onto my bed like it had burned me. My heart raced, my stomach twisted, and yet I picked it back up. I couldn't stop. I watched another clip. The girl glanced at the camera, whispering, "Please, someone find me." That night, I barely slept. Every creak in my house felt like a footstep. At 3 a.m., the phone lit up on its own, buzzing with a new message from unknown. Where is she? I nearly threw it out the window. By morning, my nerves were shredded. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I took it to the police station. The officer at the desk scrolled through the phone, his jaw tightening. He asked me flatly, "You didn't open anything, did you?" I lied, said no. That's when he told me. The phone belonged to a missing girl. She had vanished 2 weeks earlier, after leaving a friend's house. They believed the man in those videos still had her. The officer told me I'd done the right thing. He asked for my contact info and told me to leave the phone with them. I walked out of that station shaking, telling myself it was over, but it wasn't. 2 nights later, my own phone buzzed. An unknown number. You shouldn't have looked. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. My thumb hovered over the delete button, but another message appeared before I could move. I know where you live. My blood turned cold. I locked every door, every window, but it didn't help. I didn't sleep at all that night. The police never called me back. No updates. No closure. The girls' flyers stayed stapled to telephone poles until the rain washed them away. Weeks later, I was sorting laundry when something fell out of one of my hoodies. A small slip of paper I didn't recognize. On it, in scrawled handwriting, were the words, "Stop moving." My chest collapsed. My vision blurred. I don't know how it got there. I don't want to know. Sometimes, when my phone lights up late at night, I see that same unknown number again. Sometimes it's just blank. Other times it's worse. The messages don't stop. And I keep wondering if maybe he never wanted the girl back. Maybe the phone was never meant for the police. Maybe it was meant for me. Story 4. The wrong body. At her funeral, I realized the girl in the casket wasn't my friend. She had been missing for weeks. When they told me they finally found her body, I didn't ask questions. I was numb, clinging to the idea of closure. The service was small, the kind where the silence feels heavier than the prayers. The air reeked of lilies and candle smoke. I walked toward the casket, rehearsing what I'd say in my head, trying to be brave. But when I looked inside, my stomach dropped. The face was pale, bruised, carefully reconstructed with makeup. But it wasn't her. The jawline was wrong. The scar on her eyebrow was missing. The lips weren't shaped the same. I whispered to her mother, "That's not her." Her eyes, red and swollen from crying, hardened. "Please," she begged, "don't do this, not today." I stepped back, guilt eating at me. Maybe I was seeing things. Maybe grief was twisting her features in my mind. But the thought wouldn't let go. That wasn't my friend, which meant she was still out there. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. On impulse, I dialed her number. I expected it to go straight to voicemail. Instead, the line rang once, then clicked, fade static, and then breathing. Not words, just slow, ragged breathing. I ended the call and threw the phone on the table like it was cursed. My chest tightened. My brain fought for logic. Pocket dial, wrong number, a cruel prank. But my gut told me the truth. She was alive, somewhere. Days passed. People stopped talking about her. The funeral was over. The town moved on. But I couldn't. One night at 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. A new message. I opened it with shaking hands. It was a picture. Blurry, dark, but I recognized the room instantly. Her basement, the faded wallpaper, the rusted shelves, the corner where we used to sneak snacks during sleepovers. And there she was, my friend, alive. Eyes wide, hand outstretched toward the camera. I wanted to scream. Instead, I ran to the police the next morning, clutching my phone like proof of my sanity. The detective scrolled through the picture, his jaw tightening. He promised they'd check the house. Hours later, he called back. "We found nothing," he said flatly. "Basement's empty, no signs of her. Are you sure you're not imagining things?" I slammed the phone down. Imagining? I knew what I saw. The messages didn't stop. Every few days, another image arrived. Sometimes it was her face, streaked with tears. Sometimes just a handprint smeared on a wall. Once, it was a photo of my street sign, proof that whoever had her knew where I lived. The worst came a week later, another picture. This time, it was clear. My friend was staring straight at the camera, lips moving silently. I zoomed in, my throat locking up. She was mouthing, "Not me." Confused, I scrolled back and forth, trying to understand. Then another photo came through. My heart nearly stopped. It was the same picture, but in the background, faintly visible in a cracked mirror, was me. My reflection, my eyes wide, my hand holding the phone. I dropped my device. My knees gave out. The realization hit me like a hammer. These pictures weren't being sent to me. They were being sent from me. I checked my camera roll, scrolling with frantic hands. There they were, hundreds of photos I had never taken. Dark rooms, my friend's terrified face, my own reflection. The police didn't believe me when I begged them to look again. They said grief does strange things. They said trauma can make us see what isn't there. But I know what I saw. Now, I sleep with my phone off, or at least I try to. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, it lights up anyway. A new message, a new photo, And each time, I wonder if the girl in the casket was ever supposed to be her. Or if the truth is darker. Maybe the wrong body was buried. Maybe the wrong person is holding this phone. And maybe the reflection I see staring back at me isn't me at all. Story 5. The Man in the House. When I finally checked the attic, I found the mattress, the empty food wrappers, the piles of photographs, all of them, of me. It began with things so small I almost didn't notice. A mug in the wrong cabinet. Shoes moved from the front door to the hallway. The TV remote gone for hours, only to reappear in plain sight where I had already looked. I told myself I was stressed, that I was forgetful. But then came the food. A half loaf of bread vanished. Cheese slices missing, cans of soda gone, their empties crushed and tucked carefully under the trash, like someone wanted me to doubt myself. One evening, I came home to find the bathroom light on. I never leave it on. My chest tightened as I searched the house with a kitchen knife. Nothing. Every door locked, every window shut. Just silence. But that night, I woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of floorboards groaning above me. Slow, heavy, like footsteps. I froze, staring at the ceiling, barely breathing. I lived alone. At least, I thought I did. The next day, I bought new locks, screwed the windows shut, even set up an old baby monitor in the hallway, desperate for proof that I wasn't losing my mind. 2 nights later, the monitor crackled to life. Static filled the room, and beneath it, faint breathing. Then a whisper, too soft to make out, but steady. Someone was murmuring just beyond the microphone. I tore through the house with a bat, every light blazing, adrenaline surging. Nothing. No forced entry. No sign of anyone. Finally, I called the police. 2 officers came. They searched the basement, the closets, even tapped at the walls. No footprints, no scratches, no broken locks. "You're safe," one of them said, pity in his eyes. "You probably just need rest." But that night, I didn't rest. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Around 3 a.m., the floorboards groaned again, this time slower, deliberate. I dialed 911 with trembling hands. Minutes later, red and blue lights filled my street. The officers climbed into the attic. I stood at the bottom of the ladder, every muscle tense. One officer's flashlight beam cut across the rafters. Then I heard him mutter, "Oh God." They told me not to look, but I had to. The air hit me first, stale and sour, thick with sweat and dust. In the corner sat a thin, stained mattress. Around it, piles of crushed water bottles, and food wrappers, and a small wooden box. Inside the box were photographs, dozens of them, all of me, sleeping, eating, watching TV, taken from only a few feet away. My stomach lurched, my vision blurred. Whoever it was hadn't just been living in my attic. They had been watching me. Every moment, every habit. The police told me whoever it was must have fled when they arrived, that I was safe now. But one photo chilled me more than all the rest. It wasn't of me, it was of my friend, the one who had come over a month earlier. She was smiling on my couch, holding a drink, completely unaware of the camera. I remembered how uneasy she looked that night, how she kept glancing at the ceiling, asking if I'd heard something. I told her it was nothing. I told her it was just the house settling. But someone else had been there, watching us. The police bagged the photos, promised to investigate. But weeks passed, no arrests, no updates, just silence. And then, last week, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Inside were 3 new photos. The first showed me asleep in my bed, clutching the bat I thought would keep me safe. The second was of my bathroom mirror, steam still fogging the glass, taken while I was showering. And the third was a shot of me standing at the window that very morning, looking out. The police said he was gone. They said I was safe. But the truth is simple. He never left. And maybe he never will. 5 stories ended tonight, but the nightmares won't.